All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And hello all. Great to have everybody in the mix. Wow. Thank you, everyone. Please have a recorded seat, if you would. I'm overwhelmed by, please, look, guys, we have a show to do, and I'm really excited to be back to do it. We have, first of all, at full strength, the Commissioner Albert in
thank you.
The mix. And Kim as well,
Kim,
who is coming off a very successful stint as a fill-in here, having to step up into the captain's chair. And she did a really great job. I caught a little bit of it alongside Hal, who I thought also did a great job. So it was really well done, Kim.
Kim, how are you?
And I think you deserve plaudits for that, and plaudits would be a ding word. So there you go. Today we will keep the Kim momentum going, and I have the great John Rothmann, bottom of this first hour, to talk politics and the changing face of American political life. Also, I'll touch a little bit on the Middle East because there are some developments there. Actually, a pretty huge development in Israel, which I'll share with you as well. Also, I'll tell you that the Supreme Court has handed down some interesting decisions, which we will touch on again. So I think we could have a pretty thick, juicy segment with John Rothmann, to whatever extent we kind of aggregate some of that and then speak about it with John Rothmann. I've got Law and Disorder, Disney being sued, and you won't believe who is suing them. That is in Law and Disorder. Biden cannot be sued, the administration, this according to the Supreme Court, for pressuring social media companies. That is one of the big decisions handed down. That will also be reviewed in Law and Disorder. Thank you, first of all, everyone who sent me notes about my father's passing. Thank you very much. For those who don't know, my dear dad passed away, and it was very difficult and continues to be very difficult. So if I spontaneously break down and melt down in emotional heaps along the way, you'll understand it's in that context. I also will tell you, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about what's happening in the second hour. I'll also tell you that I was a little disappointed with myself, and I will give you more on that in a moment. But I'm living with a little disappointment, and again, I'll fill that in a second. And it's related to my father.
Oh, okay.
What?
I was just going to make a joke and say the rest of us live with that disappointment every day, but then you brought your dad into it, and now I feel like,
then it's awkward.
And
yes.
then it's awkward. I got my foot in my mouth.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Don't even play, Kim. When you don't know the shot, you got to be careful. Yeah,
that's right.
Put that coffee down.
Okay, yeah, let's get serious. So I'll get to that in a second. I do want to mention that Belinda will be here. Belinda Waymouth is our eco-journalist, and we do a segment on Wednesdays called It's the Planet, Stupid. And one of the things that I would love to, if not concentrate on with her, certainly touch on with her, is the degree to which people are ignoring the clear climate chaos that is everywhere, the hotter hots, the wetter wets. People are trying to go about business as usual, and it's killing them. Look at the Hajj to Saudi Arabia. They go on this, what is that, Kim? Would you call it? It's journey, right?
Yeah.
It's a journey.
A trek,
to Mecca.
a journey, right, yeah.
And it would seem, just ignore the fact that conditions for the Hajj have changed as the heat has become excruciating in ways it had never been before. In fact, it takes excruciating to dangerous. And so people died on the Hajj, a lot of people.
1,500, more than that, yeah.
I mean, that's just one example. In India, during the elections, there are poll workers. They're dying. They're just manning the polls there. So all I'm going to touch on with her is sort of how, against this backdrop of climate horror and catastrophe, people are sort of doing that move along, get along thing, and it ain't working anymore. And that's kind of, when I look at a coming Trump administration, I know not only do they have move along, get along, they want to dry clean government websites of any reference to climate change, any reference to the man-made effects. I mean, it's really a bizarre place we're in as a developed society moving forward. We have to do certain things differently at minimum. I mean, okay, you don't want to address climate change because you feel it's a political thing, the fingerprints of humankind all over climate change. Okay, but you still have to do things differently as a result. And yet it seems to be there's plenty of evidence that nothing's changing. So I'll get to that with Belinda as well, and it's the Climate Stupid. That is second hour. So
The Mark Thompson Show.
So I'll tell you what disappointed me about myself. There was a funeral for my father, and I was delivering a eulogy. I had to deliver a eulogy for him. And I felt a lot of pressure, like a tremendous amount of pressure. But I mean, the kind of pressure that I haven't really felt in many, many, many years. And I didn't really know what to do, meaning I didn't know what a eulogy should have. I understand and have heard what eulogies have had in different funerals that I've attended. Beautiful eulogies, funny eulogies, all the rest. But I made a mistake. First of all, you're getting a lot of consoling texts and emails and communications. And I had such angst about the eulogy that I was sharing some of that angst with friends. And I was getting a lot of advice, be funny, be heartfelt, be all of these things. And then I kind of got up in my head about it. I let the anxiety hijack me, really. And so I didn't have a clear sense of what I should do, all the way up to the night before. And again, a lot of the things that people told me apply to a general eulogy. But when a son is eulogizing his father, it's different. And one's advice as to what should be in a eulogy has to be different or has to be specific to that. That's a lengthy preamble to say, I felt as though I didn't meet the moment the way I wanted to meet it. Now, others looked at it and said, I thought it was fine. Now, it was okay, but it was too short. I was really in pieces about my father dying. I was so on the verge of tears all the time that I was really frightened, frankly, of being up there and then just falling apart. And then I really don't meet the moment with anything. So I have that fear. I have the anxiety about what to include. My father was a brilliant man, but that just spoke to one aspect of who he was, right? I mean, I'm trying to speak to him. When I say to him, I mean to his legacy and who he was as someone who saw him in many, many different ways. So it was really a challenge. And if I had to give you a parallel, not that it needs one, but I felt like a performer in a musical who got cast on their first audition to go to Broadway on opening night. That's the pressure I felt. I felt not up to the task. And so, to extend the metaphor, I felt like I nailed the opening number. You know what I mean? Incredible, sounded great, everything. And then I just didn't show up for the rest of the show. I feel like I should have done more for my dad. I feel I should have honored his legacy and who he was. I should have, and his history is really impressive. It's filled with examples of what a special guy he was. And I don't think I really honored that history in the shortness, the brevity of my remarks. So I really am sadly haunted by that. And I share it with you guys because I think a lot of the people on here who watch this show are both here for the information, for the takes we provide. We try to give you, good, measured, and educated takes on things, but also for the personal relationship that we've sort of evolved to and emerged with. And so it's hard. So it's very, very hard to be up in my head right now because I'm really it's all I can think about is how I should have done more.
You know what, though? Yeah. I have to tell you that, and it depends, I guess, on what you think of services and memorials and this type of thing. Are they for the person who passed, or are they for the person who's left behind? And I would argue that they're for the people that are left behind, right? The person who passed, they're not there, they don't know. And so it's about you saying goodbye and you finding a way to say something that's meaningful to you. So in my mind, whatever you stood up to say would come from your heart and would be meaningful to you. There's no way you could get it wrong.
Yeah, thank you for that. I guess what I feel as though I should have done was to the many who came to say goodbye, to honor the family, and to memorialize my father. I felt as though I could have spoken about things that would have landed with them. It's not that I feel as though I dishonored my father.
Right.
I felt because as you say, my father is gone. Mm-hmm. But I felt as though I dishonored those things that I knew I wanted to say. I wrote a bunch of stuff, but I just threw it out. I told one really funny story about my father, and then I kind of broad stroked it a little bit after that or before that. I don't really remember, and I'm not going to go back and look because I'm so embarrassed by it, if you will. And it's a little like what we do on this show or on KGO, where we came from. This show came from a radio show where the audience doesn't know what they don't know. Like I might have had a great thing planned that we never got to. If you don't tell them you had it planned, then the show was fine. Mm-hmm. But so it's not as though the audience walked away thinking that I'd done a bad job. But I do think the audience might walk away wanting more. And I had that more loaded, but I didn't do it. And I was not doing it because I was so, frankly, scared of falling apart. I just was okay, but when I started talking about my dad, I fell to pieces. I could not, and so that's where I am, and I'm not going to go round and round on it. But what I do want to mention is two things. Something very funny happened related to that, and I'll tell you, or moderately funny. And there were a couple of funny moments for the whole thing, and I'll relate them to you now. But I also want to tell you that I'm going to do a video about my dad. It's not going to be in the show. I'm not going to do a long thing here, and it won't be long, but it's going to be kind of some of the things that I wanted to say that in the moment of eulogy I couldn't say. And so if you're interested in that, hit the notification bell. In addition, you already have subscribed to the show. If you haven't, please do. Hit the notification bell, and then you'll be notified when that video drops. And then if you like it, or if it's in any way landing with you, you can share it with other people. So I'll do that, and I think you'll really be blown out by what a guy my dad was. Really an extraordinary man. And I would say that your dad knows what's in your heart, and you don't need to say anything more. The people present also have their own personal experience with your pops and carry that in their heart. Of course, Karen, thank you for that, and that's true. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, but they won't know what's in your heart unless you tell them what's in your heart. And also, there are things about my father. I'll give you one of them right now, and then we will move on, that reflect who he was as a person. Those people came to support your mom and your siblings. I'm sure they will tell you that knocked it out of the park. You're too hard on yourself. Well, I'm sure people tell you knocked out of the park because that's what people do to make you feel better. Thank you, Debbie. But one of the things I was going to mention, My dad came from a very smart family. My dad was brilliant. And when I say brilliant, I mean not showy brilliant, understated brilliant. Like he'd walk into a room and you wouldn't think that this guy is a home run hitter. But then when he stands in the batter's box, everything is just parked into the seats. And he's not in a showy way. My friend, who is an award-winning economist, his dad is an award-winning economist, okay, at the World Bank. He said that my father was the smartest guy I'd ever met. So, I mean, that gives you a sense of the kind of crippling intellect that my old man had. And to be around that house all the time, he didn't lord it over us. I mean, he just talked to us like we were equals. It was terrific. But he came from a really smart family, and his brother was an award-winning mathematician from MIT. And his brother was one of the first people hired at IBM for this SEAL Team 6 type program that they had at IBM at the time. And what they did is they hired 4 guys, my dad's brother among them, and they all just worked on whatever they wanted at IBM, whatever they were curious about. That's how gifted they were. So, and he was also a concert pianist, concert-level pianist, my uncle, okay? So we were very close to my uncle. We'd see him a lot. We visited him. He lived in New York City. He was a single dude. And my dad, after the death of their mother, ended up estranged from his brother, which was just really like a sudden divorce because we saw him so much, right? And my dad said, my estrangement is with my brother and me. The separation is between my brother and me. The argument is between my brother and me. It has nothing to do with you kids. You should continue to communicate with him, continue to visit with him, whatever it is. Don't worry about me. I want you to have a relationship with our uncle. I thought that spoke volumes and reflected who he was. Dad was super principled that way. And I felt like that was a story I wanted to tell. So it was a story, again, I didn't tell. But in any case, I will do the video, and you will be told of it. Those who are interested can check it out. And again, I won't take any more time here on the show, but that was the situation, and that's why in my head I'm a little tortured right now by that which was not said, if you will. For me, when someone gets choked up speaking about someone they love, it feels authentic and real and heartfelt. Words are not always necessary. Yeah, Mindy, and that's a good point. And a lot of people mentioned that to me. I guess I just didn't want to have things I wanted to say and not be able to say it. Anyway, I do have 2 funny things that happened. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Watch for that video, but looking forward to watching your upcoming tribute. I'm in the same boat with my sister. I did not like the eulogy, so it will be one with all those stories I couldn't. Go for it. Scott Rittenberg. Thank you. Yeah. And again, you may look at Scott's eulogy or my eulogy and go, oh, it was fine. I don't know what the problem is. But for us who, in this case for me, it wasn't fine. Debbie, a super special day in our family. We had a grandson and great-grandson born within 24 hours of each other yesterday. Wow, that's so awesome. But in hospitals 1,272 miles apart. Welcome to the world, Brody and Tobias. Big shout-out to Brody and Tobias.
Big shout-out.
Yeah. And
big shout-out.
Yeah, Brody and Tobias, B and T.
Happy birthday, little guys.
In the world. Welcome. Just in time to rescue the world from us. Wow, Debbie, that's really. Thank you for a $50 super chat.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Grandson and great grandson. Wow, that is
cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry.
I am gonna cry. That is really great. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this story quickly. So I'm in pieces. I'm going to the service, to memorialize my dad and to say goodbye. And I get there really early. I haven't been able to sleep the night before, and I'm just in pieces. So I'm okay walking from the car. Then I get to the doors, and I open the doors, and I just start weeping. Weeping. I get a Kleenex box. I'm weeping. And this guy comes up to me. And he says, "Are you the son?" I said, "Yeah, yes, sir, I am." He said, 270 is closed right now, so I'm thinking we want to take, for the funeral procession, we want to go up East-West Highway to somewhere around the 5. We have to take surface streets for a while, and then we're going to circle back around to 2. I thought, this is hilarious. This is absolutely hilarious. This guy is diligent. You know, he has a job.
He's got a plan.
Yeah, and he wants me to know that he's on it. And I said, well, it is possible that they'll be clearing the accident in the time between now and the end of the funeral. Sir, he goes, yeah. He said, I'm going to make an announcement at the end. I said, great, that's terrific. So that was really, to me, just funny. Like, you wouldn't take the cue that this guy is an emotional mess. He's a puddle. And you kind of go up with the traffic information. You know what I mean? It was just weird. And then the second thing that was funny was that we're in this car driving to the cemetery, and I'm with my nephews, okay, because I thought it would be good to be with my nephews who I don't get a chance to spend much time with at all, and my niece who just graduated high school, and her boyfriend. So that was it, and Mom was in that car. But Mom's hard of hearing, so she's not really hearing the conversation. So my nephew says, my nephews, this is really wild. In the same family, there is one kid who is this, I'd almost call him eloquent, reflective, wise almost kid in his 20s. And there's another kid who is I think he's 22 now, maybe 23, gym rat, trainer, gorgeous, like, you know, one of those guys who's like super handsome, he's got a body like G.I. Joe. And he's also got kind of like a Jersey Shore thing going in terms of who he is. Because you've got one guy who's like, again, a day's drive from what the other guy's like. So it's the latter guy who says to me, I like being able to see the body. But he says it with that kind of Jersey-ish Long Island thing. Uncle Mark, I like to be able to see the body. I mean, how do you even know Grandpa's in there? It could be just rocks in there when you're carrying it out. And I said, well, you're right. I mean, it could be. There's no way to really know. I mean, we have to just trust that, it's not rocks. He said, I think you got to be able to see it. I think, you got to, that's what I like. And I said, well, the same thing could be said, because he's talking about cremation. I said, the same thing could be said when, you cremate someone. You don't know that cremation dust or whatever it's called is actually the body of these. And he said, yeah. He said, you should be able to see your loved one going into that furnace.
Oh, God.
I said
What?
I kept it cool. I said, well, maybe you could develop that service. I mean, I don't think it's out there. I mean, where, he said, yeah, I really think the whole family should be there. And he really did. He ran this out.
Get me out of the car with the nieces and nephews. Go.
And then I said, you know what? They should do a religious service there instead of churches and synagogues and stuff like that. They should do it right there at the crematorium. That way, everything's handled. One stop. You don't have to travel to a third location. He was very funny. Really funny. Oh, how did they even know it's Grandpa in there, Uncle Mark? The best. The very best. So, yeah. That ride went on a little long for me, but it was...
The Mark Thompson Show.
He's a good kid, so... Happy birthday, says Scott Rittenberg, to the newborns. Mm-hmm. That's what that is. 1272 for the number of miles that the two are separated.
Big shout out.
That's really cool, Scott.
Cute.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, Debbie was telling us that she had a grandson and great-grandson born within 24 hours of each other yesterday. Hospitals were 1,272 miles apart, and that's why the 1272 is there. Mark, I say this with the utmost respect. One of your greatest flaws is that you're not comfortable with flaw. You are greater than you allow yourself to see. Oh, that's so sweet. That's Luis. Big shout-out to you. Peace and serenity to you, my friend, he said.
Big shout-out.
Thank you, pal. Thank you. Yeah,
What a sweet thing to say.
Yeah, really nice. One of the things about my dad is that he was a critic. I mean, he would really tell you what he thought. Like, if you were in a high school musical, he would say, well, I really liked it. I thought you struggled a bit on the second number, but I thought it was okay. So to me, he might go, I thought you were good. I thought it was maybe a little short. Maybe there were some things you wanted to add, but that wasn't bad. So you knew that you'd, kind of booted it, right? But he also was a terrific enthusiast, and he showed up to everything. He would always go, I loved it. And when my dad said he loved something, he really loved it because he did not sugarcoat it. And my whole family's like that. They'll really tell you what they think. And my dad loved this show. He was always asking about this show.
Yeah.
And I mean, toward the end, it's almost all he asked about, and he was really excited for the success of the show. And those who are listeners and viewers know we used to have them on regularly. And what can I say? Many of you have reached out to me and mentioned him in sort of a personal way, and it really is special, and it means something. Where is the notification bell? Asks Jerry Johnson. Albert, where is it? I blame you, Albert.
I blame you.
Isn't it
Tell
right
everybody
next to
where everybody where the notification bell is, Albert. Maybe you can even show them where the notification bell
Yeah,
is.
let me pull it up real quick.
Yeah, the commish will tell you, Jerry, and show you. It's right there, but maybe it's a little kind of bell type thing. And we'll answer Jerry's question, I promise, as to where the notification bell is. Yeah, everybody who's subscribed, you should grab the notification bell. That way you'll know whenever we post a new video or even a post, you will have it. So I'll wait to go to Kim's news until we get the notification bell stuff from Albert.
Yeah.
He's bringing it up now. You
There
see
it
it now. So
this is just a random video. I can't show it on our channel because it's our channel and we can't subscribe to ourselves. But it's down here.
You see how there's a bell subscribed, and the bell is right there. The bell under subscribed. We get all the notifications, everything that's happening there on the Photo Walks channel. He'll get. So.
Nice.
That's where you find it. If you need any further help, it's under the subscribe. Yeah, it's under the subscribe bell, sort of. So, big shout out to Craig Ferguson, by the way. Thank you, Craig Ferguson.
Big shout out.
Super sticker. Thank you. That's really cool, my friend. Appreciate the shout. Appreciate the $5 super sticker as a crowd-funded show. It makes a big difference.
Big shout out.
Yeah. So, and thank you, Teacher Lori. I'm always worried that Teacher Lori is going to send me something saying, got it, Mark. Can we move on, please? This is taking too long. I associate with Lori with not wanting, let's move it. But she's so sweet. She says, hope your mom is coping okay. I was thinking about her every time your absence was mentioned. Yeah. Thank you so much. And, or thank you so much, as I like to say.
Thank you so much.
And she's doing well. I think she's doing well-ish, And my sisters are there, and I'm going to go back more. In fact, I'm looking at ways to set up something there so that I'll be able to do the show from there. And so it's something we're working on so I can be around Mom more, because she'd certainly need it. Thank you, Terry Brown. My favorite KGO shows, Mark, when your mom and dad joined. I love them and love their son. Wow, it's so sweet. It means a lot, and I thank you very much for that. I really do. All right, Kim's news and then the great John Rothmann. We've got much to talk about, everything from the Supreme Court to debate prep, the debate golf course prep, and then there's the debate Camp David prep. Those are the two kinds of debate prep. And Middle East. All of it we will get to. Susie Hoffman, look at this. $25. Much sympathy to you and your family. Your tremendous loss. So happy you're back with us. We missed you. That's just really sweet. Big shout out, Susie. Thank you. And thank you for the $25 super chat. It means a lot in the
Thank you so much.
Sadly, in the life of the show, we need, we do need to make payroll, and that means a lot. So 2 things you've done mean a lot. You've contributed to the life of the show, and you've really made your feelings so beautifully clear, and I very much appreciate that. All right, Kim's News, and then Rothman. Next, Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. Oh no, and I'm having trouble with my computer.
Oh no.
Everything just froze up. Okay, here we go. Are you ready? I have it now.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Supreme Court. This report, by the way, is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards. Let's talk about the Supreme Court. Reportedly, they're going to allow emergency abortions based on a document accidentally posted online. Oopsies. That according to Bloomberg, which obtained the document relating to a pending Idaho abortion case. The document reportedly shows the court will allow emergency room doctors in Idaho to perform abortions. So we don't know if this is the real ruling. They are acknowledging that this was accidentally posted online. Things could change between now and the official posting, but that's what we know.
Well, it's funny. This is the same thing that happened, as you'll recall, when they overturned Roe. They had the leak that seemed deliberate. They tried to blame the libs, but as it turns out, it was more likely probably a conservative move to essentially shore up any of the thinking that might have been going against the majority decision to overturn Roe. In this case, it's sort of the same leak. I don't know what the end game was, but this is a likely decision based on the leak.
Well, RFK Jr. has some opinions on the upcoming debate. He is picking former President Trump as the winner of this upcoming presidential debate. On Tuesday,
I can already pick the winner. I don't need to see it.
I can see in the future. Yeah. An interview was released where Kennedy said he doesn't think it's possible for President Biden to beat Trump in that debate. Kennedy, who's running as an independent candidate, recently expressed frustration that he wasn't allowed to be on that debate stage with President Biden and Trump, claiming that CNN illegally worked with the other candidates to exclude him. Yep, didn't meet the threshold, can't be on the stage. Speaking of voting and elections, the primary results are in for Colorado, Utah, and New York. New York progressive Democrat. Yeah, Jamal Bowman lost his seat in the 16th Congressional District in a challenge from Westchester County Executive George Latimer. Bowman was one of the squad. In Colorado, Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert is leaving the state's 3rd district, winning the GOP primary in the state's 4th district. She flipped districts, so she'd be more likely to win it. Greg Lopez, won a special election in Colorado to take over the now retired Representative Ken Buck's vacant seat in the 4th district. So
this
things
is
shaking up.
Some big news in there, and I'll talk to Rothman a bit about it, because the progressive loss in New York, and again, there's a lot that went into that election. Of course, you talk to Bowman, he'll tell you, it was all the outside money that came in, and that's the reason I lost. But it seems on some level that his extreme progressive politics, I would even say the embrace on some level of a Hamas philosophy, or what could be interpreted that way anyway, it hurt him. And I think, and this is what I want to talk to Rothman about, I think it reflects that we're really a moderate nation. And these extreme positions on both sides, the extreme progressives and the extreme right-wing Christian nationalists, they don't really have the bulk of support in America. I get it, county to county, district to district, you might find it. And the Lauren Boeberts of the world, they may still carry the day in their district. But my point in New York is, that extreme left position, it really doesn't fly for most people. It's the moderate position that carries the day, and that's what happened in that race. But we'll talk to more about it with Rothman.
Let's talk about migrants. The Migrant apprehensions at the southern border are down more than 40% since President Biden announced asylum restrictions. The Department of Homeland Security says authorities apprehended about 1,600 migrants on Monday. Immigration has become a top voting issue, and Republicans are accusing President Biden of doing too little too late at the border. The White House maintains Republicans had a chance to pass a border bill, but they punted after pressures from Donald Trump. In California, we've got Governor Gavin Newsom, who is heading to the East Coast for tomorrow's presidential debate. He'll get an up-close look as President Biden and former President Trump square off on the stage in Atlanta. It's reported that he'll serve as a surrogate for the Biden campaign, talking to journalists after the debate. This follows Newsom's State of the State speech yesterday, where he said this year voters are presented with a clear choice between a society that embraces our values and a world darkened by division and discrimination.
I'll tell you this, you can say what you want about Newsom, but there is no one I would rather have post-debate in the spin room, as it's called, or whatever. Yep. I mean, giving analysis, which is, of course, partisan. But there is to me, Gavin Newsom, when it comes to media, he's just a ninja. And I mean, again, I understand. I don't love everything that Newsom does. I don't love that he's in the tank with certain special interests in California. I've got a lot of issues with him. But if I'm just talking about the guy you want out there arguing for you after the debate, 100% on Newsom.
When you ask him a question as a journalist, it's like he can see you coming a mile away. You can't sneak a question. Not that I wanted to ever sneak a question into him, but he knows he kind of gets where you're going with it. 3 words into the sentence before you even, he's like, I got you, I hear what you're saying.
I mean, is a super
and then
smart
he'll pivot and not answer the question.
Yeah, right. He's a politician though. So he knows how to, right. He's
a werewolf can kill a vampire. Did you know that?
Yeah, he's the opposite of Herschel Walker.
Talk about medicine for a moment. California is taking some action to prevent another pandemic. Thank God somebody's doing something. Health officials plan to use new technologies and tools to prepare for future outbreaks. The focus will now be on precision medicine, which can analyze vast amounts of data to better understand diseases. They think it'll lead to more targeted diagnostics, therapeutics, and prevention measures. Essentially, Governor Newsom says it'll help with early detection and faster response. So we get ahead of these things. You mentioned this, I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but it's going to be easier than ever to hail a driverless taxi in San Francisco because Waymo is no longer limiting rides to people who signed up for a wait list. Users can just download the app, request the car. The company's been operating in the city for
joyride.
A few years. Yeah, but they made the switch yesterday. No more wait list. You want it, you just call, they come get you.
It was in a beta testing period during which you could only be in the car if you were on this list that Kim's talking about, but now they're opening it up. Yeah.
Yeah, 30% of rides have been to local businesses like restaurants, bars, coffee shops, music venues, and museums. So
I got a Waymo from the Red Jack Saloon in San Francisco. They were big supporters of the KGO show, and they're big supporters of this show. We love our folks at the Red Jack. So Waymo already knows the way there, everybody. You should grab a Waymo to the Red Jack. Throw back one. You can throw back a couple because you're not driving. Jump into one of those Waymos.
And there's the Red Jack. The Instagram, old Instagram.
Wow, really dark. Mars says, make sure you get in the Waymo, not under the Waymo. I see.
Yeah, this would be bonus.
Right.
Bonus if you get in the vehicle. Yeah.
Wow.
Instagram admits that it accidentally changed users' settings to automatically limit political content ahead of Thursday's first presidential debate. The option to limit such content from appearing on users' feeds was first created by parent company Meta in February. A company spokesperson says they're working to fix it, but as of now, they've accidentally limited your political things, your settings. The Los Angeles.
I love it was an accident, right?
Yeah.
It was really not my bad.
My bad. I'm sorry.
There you go, everybody.
Lastly, the Los Angeles City Council is voting today on whether to make Marilyn Monroe's former home in Brentwood an historical landmark.
Oh.
The couple that currently owns the home bought it last year, and they were granted a demolition permit from the city of Los Angeles.
This is their new home.
Oh, my God.
But there was outrage and an outpouring of no's. So the city council temporarily put a stop to the demolition in September.
No.
Yeah.
The designation would prevent the homeowners from demolishing this home where Marilyn Monroe died in that house 61 years ago. So,
wow. Mm-hmm. They'll declare it a, historic? Is that what
an
you said?
historical landmark, which means you can't, there are more rules about what you can do to mess with its significance and it, structurally.
A quick correction, potentially. I don't really know. Kay in Santa Rosa says, Mark, I thought you were in a cruise vehicle, not a Waymo vehicle when we took our... I don't remember, actually, because I had 2 martinis, as I recall. Yeah. And that's why I was in the vehicle to begin with. So you may be right, Kay, in which case... anyway, you can get either there at the Red Jag.
This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. It's a big weekend, July 4th weekend. The winery is open July 4th through Sunday, July 7th. And they just released a new vintage. It's their 2020 Estate Pinot Noir.
Oh,
so there's
love it.
Something new to try along with the Wire Yelling Red.
Yeah, this is exciting. A new vintage.
There is nothing in our history that quite compares to this.
All right.
So get it and get your 10% off while you're at it by saying smash it with your iron rod.
Sure.
You can email Rich at tenutavineyard.com to kind of figure out how to make it all happen. Or you can call him as well and make sure you say smash it with your iron rod and say it with a panache. 925-699-4576, the number out at the winery. Tenuta Vineyards.
Go ahead. Yeah.
TENUTA, Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. Go check it out. It's going to be a great July 4th weekend out there at the winery.
In the Livermore Valley.
I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shadow Stevens. This is the Mark Thompson Show. Keep it to yourself.
Right on, everybody. Thank you for all the good wishes and excited to be back. One of the reasons I'm excited to be back is a chance to talk to this guy, the longtime KGO talk show host. He is a scholar, a lecturer, a student of presidential history, and an author. He is the great John Rothmann. Hi, John. Nice to have you.
Hi, Mark. And I want to start.
I can't hear John. There we go. Yeah.
I wanted to just start by saying one of the great privileges was to interview your father and your mother by extension on KGO. I treasure the inscribed copy of one of your father's books that he was kind enough to send me and has a special place in my library. And I want you to know I was thinking of you. And, he was such a great guy and such a remarkable individual. And please tell your mother I send my love as well. Just a great couple, and they were lucky to have you as a son, and you were lucky to have them as parents.
I definitely agree with the latter, and I'll tell you that you were so always supportive of them and my father, and thank you for that. John, tell me first about the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court decisions are coming down quickly. The latest is a leak. It's a document that essentially says that and they say it was accidentally posted online, that in the state of Idaho, and Kim, you can correct me on this because I don't have the copy in front of me, but essentially that there will be an exception for various emergencies. They'll allow involvement by doctors to essentially intervene on the part of a would-be mother. This is anything? I mean, is it a sign that the court sees issues with total ban, or what do you make of this?
There are two things. One, that it's a leak. The same thing happened exactly a year ago when Roe v. Wade was reversed and the Dobbs decision came down. Second thing is it's on the eve of the presidential discussion. I'm not going to dignify it by calling it a debate. It's a joint appearance. And that may add fodder to the fire. So I'm very interested in it. We're really waiting for the big decision on Donald Trump and the question of presidential immunity, blanket presidential immunity. And that is the one that I'm really waiting for. And evidently the court is holding back. We now know that they're going to issue decisions tomorrow and Friday, and they evidently will go into next week. There are 10 key decisions, although with this leak, it's really 9 decisions that have to come down. And it's just a fascinating moment. And may I just close by saying that we're not just voting for a president, we'll be voting for the man who will become president, either Trump or Biden, who will nominate future justices. And that means if Trump wins, you get one point of view, and Biden another point of view.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that, and I again, this would allow emergency room doctors to intervene and to perform abortions in certain situations. But so that's the leak, and that's the pending decision to which John
which could change, could change. We don't know for sure.
Right, but I like your point, which is that again, it comes at this moment, which is right before the. I always make the point. It's not a debate. It's a TV show, is the way I see it. But it's a critical TV show. It's an important TV show, and in this bizarre media world and culture that we live in, sadly, it's got oversized importance. But that said, this sort of refocuses or reminds people of this issue, which is the Supreme Court and women's reproductive rights. And so I think you make a really good point when you suggest that, hey, this thing coming at this time may allow it to be woven into the conversation tomorrow night. The debate prep thing that we've seen, essentially Trump is out on the stump and golfing. He is doing some prep. It's not fair to say that he's exclusively stumping and golfing, but that does appear to be the lion's share of his time. Biden, Camp David, guys playing Trump, mock debates, mock situations, handicap this whole thing for me.
Well, the first thing you have to know is we don't judge a person by who wins. We judge a person by who makes a mistake. The person who makes the mistake is the one who takes the headlines. And so I don't know what prep you can really do. I'm an old debater, as you know, both high school and college. I was a national champion. So believe me, I've been through this. These are not debates. The last real debate we had was Harold Stassen versus Thomas E. Dewey on May the 17th, 1948, up in Portland. And it was a debate on resolve the Communist Party should be abolished in the United States. So when you're not dealing with a single topic, it's not a debate. These are candidate forums. These are places where what we're really going to be doing is looking at how they respond to issues, how they react with each other, whether or not one of them makes a serious error. Always remember Michael Dukakis in the response to Bernard Shaw's question, what if your wife were raped? What about then with the death penalty? Or Gerald Ford, Eastern Europe is not occupied by Russia. I mean, these are the kinds of mistakes that we remember. And will this be critical? I think the most important single element we will take from this is that Joe Biden, if he can stand on the stage, as the Republicans like to say, and 90 minutes with a good, solid performance. And by the way, did you hear jacked up? Can you believe the Republicans are accusing the president of the United States of needing an amphetamine to keep himself going? I mean, it's nonsense. By the way, who was the one president that we know used amphetamines? Anybody know? John F. Kennedy, on the eve of his summit with Nikita Khrushchev in Vienna in 1961. Look,
he certainly needed a lot of painkillers. There's no question about it. There's a lot about the drug abuse in the White House. It's being suggested by Ronnie Jackson, for example.
Let's remind everybody who Ronnie Jackson is, and let's point out that Donald Trump couldn't remember the name of his own doctor. It was Ronnie Johnson, according to him.
Well, the reason that was funny is because he was making a point about how Biden can't remember anything, doesn't know where he is, and then he says he can't remember. And right away, he refers to Ronnie Johnson instead of Ronnie Jackson. Yeah, but remind everybody, because it's a great story, Ronnie Jackson is a disgraced doctor and member of the White House staff. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's now a member of Congress. So, look, the simple truth
he was.
is...
So are you going to tell everybody, or you want me to tell them?
Oh, go ahead, please. No, I love hearing you.
No, well, what I was going to say is that during his White House stint, he talked about the fact in writing that Donald Trump was in better physical shape than likely any other president who'd ever served in office. He also, and this has been widely reported, was doling out amphetamines, doling out opioids, doling out Xanax like it was Halloween candy. So this idea that Ronnie Jackson would in any way suggest that the Biden administration is anyway awash in cocaine or anything else is laughable. I mean, or Adderall. I mean, this is a guy who had sacks full of it and was tossing it office to office when he was in power. So it's utterly absurd. So I just wanted to make that point.
And he's now a member of the House of Representatives, a Republican from Texas, and it's shameful. But this is what we've come down to. And may I remind you, we know one of the two candidates was not honest about his health, and that was Donald Trump, who had COVID.
Right.
And, look, what I'm really interested in tomorrow night is their appearance. That's what's going to matter. Who makes the first mistake? What issues will they raise? I made the observation this morning that in 90 minutes, they're not going to have a lot of time to do it, but I'm interested in their foreign policy stance. These are major issues. But may I also indicate to you, this is the last presidential election in which I will be younger than both candidates running for president. So I'm not ruling out a run in 2020.
Well, the way we're going, you might have another one. I'm telling you, the age just keeps getting bumped up. I think.
And who will Trump pick for vice president? I mean, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the big question is, who will Trump name as a vice presidential candidate? And let me tell you, it's narrowed, but I'm going to make one observation nobody's made. They keep talking about Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is not eligible to be vice president because he's a senator from the state of Florida. And where does Donald Trump live? In Florida. And you can't
he could change that residence, though, couldn't he, John?
From the same state,
couldn't
which
he
your
change that
father
residence?
would have pointed out immediately.
I'm sorry. Could he not change that residence?
Oh, then it's a real question. He's a United States senator from Florida. And where's he going to change it?
Right. No, I'm sorry. I meant Trump.
Oh, yes. Trump could leave Florida. By the way, we have one example of that, and that was George Bush and Dick Cheney, because Cheney was registered in Texas, and I was on KGO at the time. How did we really know that he was going to be the nominee? When he switched his voting registration to Wyoming. And of course,
well, I know one thing that's not going to happen. If he wants Marco Rubio, he's not going to say, well, you're right, it goes up against the Constitution, I guess I can't do it. I mean, that is absolutely not in Donald Trump's mind at any time around anything that he does.
But you know what stuns me? Where are the commentators on, frankly, all the networks, CNN, Fox, MSNBC? Nobody's pointed that out. I don't understand these people. Don't they understand their history?
I mean, I think they're playing the next hand, which is likely, that they'll work around it somehow. But you're right; it doesn't get enough oxygen. Yeah. I just want to touch on a few of these things today that were handed down by the Supreme Court, also on the pressuring of social media companies to do certain things. The argument before the court was that the Biden administration was urging social media to do certain things. The allegation was that there was misinformation about COVID-19 up on social media sites, and the Biden administration was urging the removal of that misinformation. And the 2 red states and 5 social media companies brought a case to the Supreme Court and sued federal officials. Certain federal officials were actually named, and again, designating their communications to various tech platforms, and suggested that should be a violation of law to mess with that information on social media platforms. The court ruled that the Biden administration and those federal officials were not in violation of the law. Or, I ask you, was it more of a punt on that? And they said, well, we don't want to rule on that. We just will tell you that you 5 states and social media companies don't have legal standing to bring this case before the court.
That's what it was. It was a punt. But it is a victory of sorts for the Biden administration. So this is the Supreme Court we're dealing with. And I want to emphasize again, what matters in this election is who is elected president, because only the president nominates people for the Supreme Court.
Amy Coney Barrett wrote, without proof of an ongoing pressure campaign, it is entirely speculative that the platform's future moderation decisions will be attributable even in part to the Biden administration officials who were named as defendants. So again, it was both a decision on standing, as I said, that you don't have standing to bring this case, you plaintiffs, but also you could see in the Coney Barrett decision that, and in her statement, that it sounds like there's no there for the Supreme Court anyway.
I agree with your analysis.
Now I want to ask you about Israel. One of the things that was interesting that I saw, this just broke, was that, and I think you're just the guy to ask, and this sort of transcends any kind of, before everybody gets their backup, Israel and Hamas and Gaza thing. This goes to a long-term and long-time position, which is that the extreme religious factions in Israel don't have to get drafted. They don't have to serve in the military.
May I explain this?
Yeah, please. That's exactly why I bring it up, because I think you can explain it. Go ahead.
When Israel was created in 1948, David Ben-Gurion and the Jewish people had suffered this terrible thing in the Holocaust, where all the great scholars had been destroyed. The Nazis targeted initially the scholars and killed them all. And so Ben-Gurion said, okay, if you are a scholar, if you're studying in a yeshiva, a religious school, you must continue to study because what you're doing is as important as the soldiers on the front line. And that was accepted in Israel. They did create a program called the Hesder program, where you could be religious, study, and also serve in the army. And a few people took advantage of that. But what is now a ruling by the Israeli Supreme Court, a unanimous decision, by the way, is that simply being religious doesn't exempt you from service. And so the call is now out for them to serve. Now, let me explain to you, this creates a tremendous internal crisis in Israel.
Thank you. This is the other 3D chess of this decision. Go ahead.
There is, in Israel, they have a multi-party system. It's not a two-party system. And among the parties are the religious parties. The religious parties, who can support left or right, depending upon who works with them, is very interested in maintaining these exemptions. So there will be a massive demonstration this weekend by religious Haredim, the religious faction, against this Supreme Court ruling. But it now is the law, and that's the way it is. They might try to change it in the Knesset, but the votes are not there for that. It just won't happen. So
in terms of political coalitions, though, John, you can, and this is why I really wanted to speak with you about this, this is bad, again, for Netanyahu, who was a defender of this existing policy. Am I right?
Yeah, but as were the liberals in Israel when they were in power, because there are 120 seats in the Knesset. You need 61 seats to form a government.
I see.
The religious parties have been in every government except 4 brief occasions. And the religious parties say, okay, we'll come in, we'll support you on XYZ, but you have to support us. So this is the game that's being played. Netanyahu is concerned because if his government is toppled and he loses the job of prime minister, he will almost certainly go to jail because of corruption charges. So it's a real paradox.
But that's interesting that you point to the fact that they're a valuable coalition for both sides, is what you're saying.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I always remember that the first time that Rabin's government fell in 1976 was because planes from the United States landed in Israel on the Sabbath. And that was the excuse for the religious parties to pull out. They thought they were doing the right thing. What did they end up with? Menachem Begin as prime minister, which for their point of view was just fine because Begin was willing to deal with them, as was Rabin, as was one of the great men in Israel, Shimon Peres. So it's a very interesting dynamic that people need to be aware of because the Israeli political system is built on coalitions and, politics makes very strange bedfellows.
Well, and this is a really good point. It's not like the U.S. that way. I mean, certainly you build political coalitions and alliances in this country, but it's different. A parliamentary system is so very different. The question about the ripple effects of Israel-Gaza, of course, extend all the way to the presidency, but I'm really more curious about the results of the Bowman primary from last night in New York. Maybe you can reset things, for we did mention it, and I think Kim covered the story in the news. But Bowman may very well have lost that primary because of his unapologetic position against Israel. And I want to say it was, if it wasn't pro-Hamas, it was pro-Hamas adjacent.
Listen, Bowman made the statement that there were 75 years of occupation. That goes back to 1948. He was talking about the elimination of Israel. It was a completely offensive thing, but then Bowman is not a smart guy. You know why? He pulled a fire alarm in order to put a vote in the Congress. And he denied it until they had the video that proved it. I think he would have lost no matter what. But the fact is, he's taken very extreme positions, and his district was not willing to embrace those positions. He lost 2-1 essentially, and so this is a real commentary. People in congressional districts pay attention. When you can win, as he did by 10,000 votes, by 10% rather, it's a big victory. And frankly, he deserved to lose. And even progressives that I know in New York said, we're not going to vote for this guy. By the way, the guy who won is also a progressive, been in city government for 30 years, known for his reputation of being a progressive. But I don't think these are progressives. I think someone like Bowman is a retrogressive. He's not progressive. He's going the opposite direction, and he deserved to lose, and he did.
The military, I should say the militant arguments, I think just don't work anymore. I was making this point a bit earlier. I really feel as though we're essentially a moderate nation, and these extreme positions, left and right, they don't have traction. Now, if you seize power, you can, of course, make your extreme positions prominent in American life and screw what's popular. I mean, I think that's what's happened in the Supreme Court. I think that was a power grab. I understand that it was technically legal what they did, but it was a power grab to hold that seat out during the Obama administration. So Obama was a clown in Congress. His screaming matches with MAGAs brought him down to their level, says John.
It was just terrible. But let me remind you, you're right about extremism. The Republican Party nominated Barry Goldwater in 1964, who lost overwhelmingly because he was viewed as an extremist. The Democrats nominated George McGovern in 1972. The same thing happened to McGovern. Not that they were really extremists, but they were portrayed as being extreme. And I believe in Richard Nixon's old dictum. To win a primary, you run to the left if you're a Democrat, to the right if you're a Republican. But to win the election, you got to run to the center. You know what I'll be watching tomorrow night? What candidate runs to the center fastest? And the problem that Donald Trump has is his base. He cannot betray his base. And Joe Biden, on the other hand, represents an inclusive Democratic Party that has people from all different positions. So one of the reasons that right now, today, I give a heads up to Biden on the odds of re-election is because Trump's base can't expand. It's too narrow. Joe Biden is trying to expand his base. And I think that will be one of the points that he will make tomorrow night in the joint appearance, not a debate, a joint appearance, which I think will have that impact.
Well, two things, John. First of all, what you're saying, I think, is indisputably true. But in this screwed up way in which elections go down here with an electoral college, this whole thing comes down to fewer than 50,000 votes. So while he may lose the political battle at the popular vote level by even 10 million votes, he could still very well win the election for the reasons I just mentioned.
He could. And that's why the battleground states, the roughly 6 battleground states, are the ones we're going to be watching. And you
and that's why those battleground states are being dumped with a ton of GOP money and a ton, to be fair, a ton of Dem money.
Of course.
But I mean, those voters are being carpet bombed by every kind of negative ad, positive ad, policy ad, mashups showing that Biden, doesn't know where he is, mashups showing that Trump is an unhinged crazy. I did want to ask you if you have a prediction. I have 2 questions about the debate, and then I'll let you go. One is if you have a
You'll never let me go, Mark. I'll be with you forever.
I can't quit you, John. But the prediction as to the outcome tomorrow night, I know both teams are going to claim they won, but I'm also curious about what would you ask a Trump and what would you ask a Biden if you were moderating the debate?
Who won the election of 2020? Because if Trump says that he won, I think it has a huge impact. That would be the question to him. To Joe Biden, the real question is, given your age, do you feel comfortable running for another term? And I think those are the 2 legitimate questions that have to be asked.
Well, I'll tell you, I think you've wasted your question to Trump, and I'm very surprised. And I don't understand it. I give you one question to ask Trump, and your question is, did you win the 2020 election?
Why are you yelling?
He's obviously going to say no. It's his whole thing. I mean, where have you been for the last 3.5 years?
Why are you yelling?
But so the beauty of it is that everyone will see.
Everyone's already seen it, John. It's not a good question. Let me give you the good question.
What question would you pose?
Yeah, all right.
Why are you yelling?
All right. So the question you want to ask is, sir, we have a lot of policy issues to get to tonight. We have a lot of things confronting this nation, and we hope to get to as much policy as we can. Many are curious. Why did you take thousands of documents from the White House and keep them in insecure locations across Mar-a-Lago and elsewhere?
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
I have no problem with that question, except he'll answer it by saying Biden did the same thing. Look what happened in Delaware.
Right, but
not specific enough.
I want to hear. I want to hear him say it. Then say it. Biden did the same thing.
Then I'll go with you on that. And you might ask him a question on a woman's right to choose, because women, you can see in all the polls, people under the age of 30 are voting overwhelmingly for Biden. But by the way,
and given a follow-up, I would say, well, Biden didn't take thousands of documents, sir. I mean, you took truckloads and truckloads of documents, and then you evaded the subpoena. I mean, just explain to me what you were thinking, and then I just want to hear him answer that.
Don't talk to me that way.
All right.
What question to Biden?
What's your a question for Biden? Would be, this is good. I sorry, but I don't think the age question. Well, I think the age
address it.
The age question isn't a bad one. It's just that I know he has a preloaded response. I don't.
All of these questions will be preloaded responses.
Sure. No, I agree. Even as I say it, I know that. But I might ask this question. And by the way, this is an easy one too. But I would say, you promised to return this country to normalcy and to try to build coalitions of consensus. How do you think that's going?
See, Mark, with all due respect, it's too vague.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in specific questions that really force an answer. You don't want them rambling about all these things. You want to direct it. That's why the moderators are so important, because they're the ones that are going to be asking the questions. And let me tell you something. This is going to be a moment when everybody in America and the world will be listening. By the way, what about Ukraine? What about NATO? What about the Middle East?
Right.
Do you ask those tough questions?
That's really, I think, where on policy you can begin to nail down.
Did you listen to my podcast this morning?
Yeah.
That was essentially what I said in my podcast.
Yeah.
So
Cheryl agrees with you. He'll say Biden did the same thing.
Of course he will. And
unprepared, Mark, says Ricky. Yeah, I was not expecting to answer. I thought I was the host. I didn't think I had to answer the question. So you're right.
You know, the great thing, Mark, is you and I can banter, and it's not a question of winning or losing.
Thank you, John.
It's a question of learning and getting the information out.
Yes, it is. And I love the way, as I often said, I have no idea what Rothman just said, but I love the way he said it.
What do you think? What do you think about asking Trump, how can we trust you to leave at the end of your term?
It's not applicable because the term limits are set by the Constitution.
He's already said he thinks he should have a third term.
I know, but he can't have a third term. You could ask him, if I can amend that, are you in favor of repealing the 22nd Amendment?
Yeah, don't you?
But
he doesn't know what that is.
Okay, but wait. But even if the 22nd Amendment were repealed, even if it were repealed, like Harry Truman in 1952, and beyond, Harry Truman could have run forever because the constitutional provision applies to when you were elected president. And so I think clearly Trump would have a problem because under that provision, if you understand the Constitution that way, when he would be elected, the 22nd Amendment would be in force and he couldn't change it.
I do think the NATO questions and questions pertaining to Ukraine are great substantive policy questions. This from Brian. You'll have to help me. I can't. There it is. John, what a blessing for you being with Mark today. Mark, according to Jewish tradition, the numeric meaning of the number 18 means life. As you continue your journey in life, we walk with you, bro, with love. That's so sweet. Wow. Brian Reich, great supporter of the show, and that's a beautiful
And may
sentiment.
I say, Brian,
big shout out.
He's one of the smartest guys I know. And Brian, I send you lots of love.
Oh, that's terrific. That's really great. Well, it's nice that you guys have that love fest, John. I like as much love as I can get on this show to offset my negativity. That's what I like. I like a little love.
I just wish you'd have more confidence in yourself, Mark.
John, this is from No Contendo. Obama should make an ad clowning Trump for golfing as opposed to preparing. Considering that Trump said Obama did more golfing than governing. That's true. I mean, of course, there was plenty of projection in the comments that Trump made. Thanks for the $5 super
Big
chat.
shout out.
I do think, actually, John is assuming that we will still be living under anything resembling the Constitution if the fascists win in 2024, says James Watson. I do think there is something, a reasonable point. I mean, things could really dramatically change. That certainly is their plan, to stay in power.
That's what Project 2025 is all about.
Which I'd like to discuss. I'd like to do a separate segment with you on 2025, if we can, on their stated objectives and the methodology and strategies that they've actually laid out as to how to get to that objective.
It's funny.
I was going to.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you
a story, but I won't.
Okay. I was going to ask.
Can you let him finish, sir?
Yeah. Can you let me finish, please?
No.
So I was going to just platform off that one comment about Obama. It still feels to me as though Obama is the Democratic Party rock star, the best campaigner in the crew, the smartest, most nimble, most gifted when it comes to oratory. And I'm wondering when you see them really, taking the Ferrari out of the driveway and getting it out onto the track.
Well, it's very clear. I thought you were describing Bill Clinton because the words you just used describing Obama was the description of Bill Clinton, who seemed to be the Democratic Party superstar. The reality is you can be a superstar, but unless you control the levers of power, there's very little you can do it. And the man who controls the levers of power in the Democratic Party is Joe Biden. And let me assure you, if Joe Biden for some reason bows out or something happens to him and he can't run, the successor will be Kamala Harris, who will have the full backing not only of the Biden delegates to the convention, but also of Barack Obama. So, I mean, the Democratic Party future, in a sense, is discernible, although if you noticed yesterday's State of the Union speech by Gavin Newsom, which we could have talked about at great length, and I have a podcast about that just coming out, he's definitely running for president, and he definitely sees himself as the future of the Democratic Party. So
we're doing a whole X-ray of the Newsom situation and his speech on Monday's show. So
may I quickly just point out, who did he open quoting? The first Democrat elected governor of California in the 20th century, Culbert Olson. And I was so amused because Governor Olson was a fascinating man. He only served one term. Earl Warren beat him in the 42 election. But who would know Culbert Olson? Except for a political historian. But
John, we love you. Got to wrap. Thank you, my friend.
Do? Okay.
Around the Political World with John Rothmann is the podcast. Grab it, subscribe, support John. He's also, of course...
it's free.
Yeah, the voice of San Francisco. And you can find him across the great web, the voice of San Francisco with John Rothmann. John,
thank you very much.
All right. Great seeing you, my friend. Thanks for the nice words, too. Appreciate that.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Albert, we're running behind here. Commish, what's going on? I don't know what to do. I've got a lot of stuff to get to still, Albert.
Yeah, we have a couple segments that we could get to here.
Yeah, let me just take a look at things, and we can figure this out. Meanwhile, if I can just ask everybody, smash the like button like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Smash it. Give me a thumbs up. Costs you nothing. Subscribe to the show. Share the show in the ways you do across social media. We are close to 35,000 subscribers. I'm not sure how close. I want to say like we're like 150 or something like that. Maybe 100. Maybe it's 200. But anyway, the point is that I appreciate everybody who shares the show because then more people find out about it. They subscribe if they see stuff that they like, if you share a segment or a video. Come couple of people sent me emails saying that they like Gil Gross. We'll get more Gil Gross in the future, I think. I thought that was a really good booking. Kim really steps up the bookings when she's hosting, I've noticed. It's a really...
Kim, how are you?
Right. That's what happens.
No, I just find, maybe dogs it a little bit when I'm hosting. But when she's hosting, man, I've got this guy coming, I've got that guy coming. Wow. I went back and looked at that guy's work. I saw that he did another book. I think I'm going to have him back. We're gonna. It's like, Kim, you really?
I blame you.
All right, just saying, it's odd how you
Nothing.
Really
step your game up a little bit. Is all I'm saying when you're hosting. That's
Put that coffee down.
All right, sorry. Okay, now I think I could do. I really would like to do, and Albert, I am going to do Law and Disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care,
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
I've already shared with you the Supreme Court decision, so I'm going to move on to another story which I just can't believe. Say it ain't so. Mm-hmm. Disney is being sued by the Village People.
What?
That's right.
What?
More than $20 million is in play. The Village People are saying that Disney failed to pay for a performance and then banned the group from Disney World.
Who is having that conversation?
They had it. It's done.
Why did they get banned from Disney World?
Well, sit right there, young Kim, and I shall tell you the story about one of the great groups in all of American recording history, the Village People. Their longtime lead singer, now in court against Disney. But since he can't be there because he is, anyone? If you guess dead, that's the word we were looking for.
What?
The wife is now taking hold of things. And Karen Willis, the wife of lead singer and co-founder Victor Willis, manager of the group's trademark for live performance, she is suing. She's launched this suit against Disney on behalf of Victor and the group. They want $20 million in damages. Oh, I want to make a correction, though. I thought Victor had passed away. Albert, will you check this?
I'm confused. I thought everybody in the Village People were gay. I'm surprised somebody has a wife.
No. And this is what we addressed on the old KGO show. I did a whole segment about who was gay and who was straight in the Village People.
Okay.
Yes. It was, if you missed that segment, it's probably at the Smithsonian somewhere. That was the kind of quality segment stuff that we did.
I thought they were all gay.
No, they are not. Albert, will you Google it just because Kim mentioned it?
Google it.
Victor Willis is, in fact, still alive.
Wow. Well, apologies to the Victor Willis family. The manager...
like the naval captain, maybe? Oh, I guess they just rotate through the outfits.
Well, just as a... No, they don't rotate through the outfits. There are specific people. But some have passed away, some were gay, and some were straight. Albert... At the end of the story, Albert will tell you which Village People were gay and which ones were straight. We did a whole segment on it back on the old radio station.
Google it.
And they're not all gay, they're not all straight, they're not all alive, and they're not all dead. The Village People are suing Disney World, and the lawsuit is being brought by the wife of the lead singer and co-founder, Victor Willis. She is the manager of the Village People's trademark for live performances. Now, Victor is the sole original member of the group who still performs under the Village People name. He co-wrote and sang on most of the group's classic albums and hit singles. YMCA, Macho Man, In the Navy. That's all Victor Willis. So the Village People were booked in for a performance at Walt Disney World in Florida in 2018 to bring the Village People magic, with many of those positions and roles within the band that had been lost to history because band members had passed away, they continued with new members taking up the baton of performance. And they've been performing at Disney World for about a decade, Kim. But the manager and wife of Victor Willis alleges that the 2-day performance there at Disney World went poorly for the first time in years. They'd always had good luck, but they had a bad outing. And apparently the sound wasn't good. She says the audio was all messed up. And a Disney employee supposedly blocked her from entering the audio booth to correct the audio problem. She says that the band's time at Disney World was marked by being attacked by overzealous fans who she claims were planted at the park by a group of feuding ex-Village People members.
Wow.
So within the Village People, there's the kind of internecine squabbling that has led to a Village People throwdown at the happiest place on earth.
Why are you yelling?
It's a complicated twist, Kim. But this lead singer, who really left the Village People after the group's early success, but then returned to live performances in 2017, has been involved in lawsuits with the group's record label, the production company, to give him the right to perform with a new group under the Village People name. So that group had been performing as the Village People for decades at that point, which included several dancing and singing members of the Village People that were, again, put back in various roles. And again, Willis is the lead vocalist, all right? So she's saying in this suit with Disney that the members who were cast out of the Village People were feuding with her husband, and they were among dangerous fans at Disney World who attacked both her and Victor, the lead singer.
Wow.
Again, unclear that she has evidence to back this up, Kim. But she says that the Village People's contract stipulates that they be given extra security. She says Disney did not provide that. So you may think, well, this is going to be tough to prove, and you would be right. There seems to be questionable evidence. However, that is not the biggest issue. The biggest issue with this Village People lawsuit is that they were never paid. Disney sent checks out for the show. Supposedly, these checks were made out to the wrong people or groups or entities. So Victor and the Village People couldn't get the money that they were owed. She says that when she and Victor told Disney about this problem, they brushed it off. And it's unclear that new checks were ever sent, Kim. Following this bad performance, the lawsuit is saying that Disney didn't book the Village People in the 6 years since that show, despite having booked the group annually for years before that. She says in this lawsuit with Disney that she believes Disney is intentionally not booking the group as retaliation for the substandard performance that the group had that one weekend. Disney is trying to get the case dismissed.
Maybe there's just too many problems with the Village People. It sounds like they got a lot of drama going on there. Maybe Disney was just like, you know what? We're just going to back away from you guys for now.
Well, I will tell you something. I'm kind of on Disney's side on this. They don't have to book the Village People. Great. You had a great run with the Village People. We don't book you anymore. You're just not who we want to book anymore. Why aren't they allowed to take that position? I don't understand it. By the way, though, there must be something to this. I mean, at least enough that a judge who was listening to the Disney arguments for dismissing the case, the judge said, no, I'm not dismissing the case. I'll hear this case. So the lawsuit will be able to continue against Disney. It's for $20 million. But yeah, I don't get why they're not allowed to hire and unhire whoever they want. You know,
who's your favorite Village person?
Oh,
you have
that's
a favorite?
Great question.
Yeah, Mark, you kept on referring Victor Willis as the lead singer. He's also the cop and admiral, just by the way.
Oh, he is the cop and admiral. Very good knowledge from Albert.
Also,
Albert, thank
Disney's
you. Yeah.
defense, there's just too many members and too many rotating members in terms of the checks. I'm sure they're very confused on who's getting a check or not.
That is true. Do you just write the check to the Indian in Village People? Right.
I'll take care of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Indian. For those just listening, we have it up here. It's Indian, hard hat guy, cowboy, cop. What is that guy with the handlebar mustache? What is he? Leatherman, maybe?
Leatherman, yes.
Yeah. And then what is that? Army? Is
Yeah.
That
Or
Army.
military member. Yeah.
Military member. So, I hate to say this, Leatherman looks to me like a lot of what I saw on Polk Street in the 80s in San Francisco.
He's a
You know what I
Folsom
mean?
Street fair fellow. Yeah.
Yeah. I really kind of like him. I hate to say it. Maybe if I were gay, like that would be the kind of guy I'd go for. One of those leather guys, like a real tough guy with the handlebar mustache.
I like construction worker or Native American fellow.
Oh yeah, you're right. Strong. Construction worker, yeah, good. The Native American, yeah. I called him Indian. I'm sure there are a bunch of people at my A right now. Mark is not an Indian. Well, they called him the I word back in the day, so that's why. Yeah. Now, Albert, who's gay and who's straight, please?
Google it.
You can Google it. It will tell you. I've done it before. We did this segment on KGO.
I do have a full timeline of every single member that I found and what years they were in the group or not. And Victor Willis is there at the top.
Well, it's great that Victor has made it as long as he has. It sounds like he has one less gig to add to his schedule.
They are bookable, though. I did find their website. I did find their contact, and Karen Willis is the contact. So,
what is the price, I wonder, to book the Village People? What do you think it would be?
We should book the Village People for the next Mark Thompson gathering.
Yeah, I'm up for a virtual meetup. Maybe they're not as expensive.
We can do it by Zoom. Yeah, Zoom's fine.
Yeah, Zoom numbers are probably a little bit lower. Anyway, good luck, Village People, gay and straight. We love you all, and we miss you. All right. Now, one thing that's insane, and it's happening all over, but man, we see it in the Bay Area in California in such a huge, ugly way, is the sideshow stuff. That sideshow that hit the eastern span of the Bay Bridge.
Last weekend was nuts.
Yeah. They couldn't even get to it because there were so many cars on the bridge, so the cops couldn't even get to it, and they tried to chop her in with one of those police helicopters, and they were hit with all these lasers.
They had a fireworks show. The people at this in the sideshow were firing fireworks 30 feet up into the air. Look at that.
Yeah.
As if it's some type of fair celebration. What?
Well, you know where I am on this. I'd arrest everybody I could, and it would be serious, man. It would be serious. You mess with this. You mess with people's ability to get from here to there. I think it's a degree of mayhem that's intolerable, and I crack back on it hard. So the problem is, as maybe we've discussed, you need a lot of police presence to actually do what I've just described. You can imagine you'd need a couple of hundred officers maybe to actually bring about the kind of narrative that I just described. But it is completely unacceptable. And even if you just grab whoever you can grab and prosecute, I think you do knock down the possibility of this happening. It's way out of control. You cannot.
It's totally
and people
out of control.
people get hurt and even killed during all of this.
Yeah.
So that's the latest. And there was another one in Vallejo, and they're having them all the time. Copper thieves in the Bay Area cut 16,000 wires and knock out 911 service for 3 Bay Area cities.
Oh, that's nice. Put life at risk just because you want the wire. Great.
The 911 lines in Pinole, Hercules, and San Pablo went down again. It was an attempt to steal more copper. The Pinole cops said that officers caught 3 thieves in the act. 2 of them, 31-year-old man from Hayward and a 49-year-old from Richmond, were arrested.
crime that you have so much disregard for society. You know, I mean, it's not just you're stealing something for yourself. You're like, screw everyone else. Honestly.
There is an aspect of what Kim is saying that is so true.
Kim, how are you?
In fact, I would suggest that a lot of the ripoffs, the swarming ripoffs, the smash and grabs, even the mayhem may fall into a category. This is part of a much bigger conversation, and I actually was just talking about booking someone on this. I've got a couple of really special guests coming up in the future on this kind of thing. It's those who don't feel they have a stake in society anymore. So when you feel you don't have a stake in society, you don't have a stake in order, you don't have a stake in what you're living in, the community, it essentially, consciously or unconsciously, permits any number of things to happen. Behavior on your part is far more wide open. And I think that you make a good point. It's like they just don't feel the laws apply to them because they don't feel as though they have a stake in what's going on. But all of this falls into a level of lawlessness that is brutal. And it, again, it creates an unsafe society. That's Law and Disorder.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
This name will mean something to many of you and not anything to some others, but you should know the brilliant actress Jenna Rollins, suffering from Alzheimer's disease. Her son, Nick Cassavetes, a friend of mine, and a brilliant filmmaker in his own right. I say in his own right because his dad was one of the great filmmakers, John Cassavetes, of the modern era. He made the announcement. So Jenna Rollins, she's an honorary Oscar winner, and she is best known probably for The Notebook among sort of some of the younger boys and girls. But she has Alzheimer's, and she's suffering from Alzheimer's now, and the announcement was just made.
Well, in that movie, The Notebook, she played a role where she had Alzheimer's or she had some type of memory loss and dementia. So I think if she's most well known possibly for that role. So it's like life imitating art in that
Such
case.
a good point. Thank you, Kim, because John Cassavetes, Nick Cassavetes, the son of John, directed her and directed his mother, who played the older version of the character played by Rachel McAdams as a woman with dementia, right? And he even said, we spent a lot of time talking about Alzheimer's and wanted to be authentic with it. And now, for the last 5 years, she's had Alzheimer's. She is in full dementia, and it's so crazy. We lived it. She acted it, and now it's on us, is what he said. She did a film with Peter Falk, directed by John Cassavetes, called A Woman Under the Influence. I can't recommend it enough. It's a brilliant film with the kind of verite style of John Cassavetes, but at the center of it is the lead, and you're looking at her, Jenna Rollins. She also won 4 Emmy Awards, and she's just a real, grande dame of Hollywood. And so that news I saw and felt I had to share. Now, Albert, I turn to you once again. You are the producer of this show. We have many things that we still have to get to, but I also have, don't I have Belinda today?
Yeah.
We do have Belinda, so I'm thinking we have a couple shout-outs here and maybe a bumper to give you a little bit of a break, and then we'll get to Belinda.
All right. Albert has a very good plan, a solid plan.
Albert, thank you.
Yeah. Tom, let me just do this so I can read it more easily. Tom Ladowdy.
Yeah.
A $10 super chat.
Big shout out.
Mark, my sincerest condolences on your dad's passing. His best qualities will live on in you. Isn't that sweet? Wow, that's really beautiful and it's touching. Thank you. Thank you, Tony. Really do appreciate that, man. Thank you. Marilyn Gunning with a super sticker for a $5. Big shout out to Marilyn. Thank you. It's a crowd-funded show. We do appreciate it. And Wes, always there with a smile and financial support. How about it, Wes?
Big shout out.
$5 super chat. Thank you. Those of you who've left us super stickers in post-show trading, thank you for that, too. You can always do that with that heart and the $sign. And, of course, you can become a Patreon or PayPal member. Maybe we should get into some of the new ones, or a couple of new ones. And so I appreciate everybody who has been with the show since the beginning, or for many months, or however long it, I know, is something then that really speaks to your dedication of support. And that means so very much. We work really hard on the show. I think I drive Kim every version of crazy, because I'm constantly trying to book people and think of things and find things that I think might be interesting to this audience. So we do want to always evolve. We don't want to ever get stale, and that's my commitment. And so I appreciate all of you who have been with us and have watched that evolution and sort of watched the show evolve in all of these different ways. So again, we have a website. It's themarkthompsonshow.com. Click Patreon or PayPal there at that site, or you can click Patreon or PayPal underneath any video, and you can find a link to Patreon or PayPal. And that's a great way to support the show on an ongoing basis. So thank you very much. All right. So, Albert, we'll do Sausalito, Steve. Isn't that sweet? Oh. Blessings, Mark. The pain passes, but the beauty remains. Renoir. Wow. That's heavy and beautiful and, hopefully right. So, Sausalito, Steve, thank you for that.
Big shout out.
Yeah. All right. So, Albert, you're going to hit us with a, what are we going to hit with a sweeper? Is that it? You want me to hit a sweeper? You want to hit a sweeper? Who wants to hit a sweeper?
You can hit a sweeper if you want. I'll play this screen and with a sweeper. And then we'll get the
all right. Excellent. Mark Thompson.
You guys got it down. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
I come from regular stock.
Put that coffee down.
There's a reason that this place is fun. Don't ever use that word.
What are the porn stars doing, Mark?
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
They pay me a lot of money for having attitude.
What you say is the political dogma that they're trying to shove down our throats.
Straight up, right in, no problem.
What? What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
Cuatro años más.
You can buy a Movado watch in Sam's.
I don't wear a mask for the same reason I don't wear underwear. Things gotta breathe.
Say what?
Do you have a secret talent?
You get nothing.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Did you really just do that?
Oh, girl, baby girl. Don't even play.
Yeah. Don't even play, baby. Glad to have you here. Wednesdays, one of my favorite days. Get a chance to talk about the Earth, the planet, the environment, what's going on. We do it in a segment we call It's the Planet, Stupid.
The planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet.
Earth.
A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet, stupid. No. It's the planet, stupid.
Our guide for It's the Planet, Stupid is eco-journalist Belinda Waymouth. Hi, Belinda.
Good morning. Oh, no, it's afternoon.
I don't hear Belinda. There we go. Hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I've forgotten how positively upscale you sound all the time.
I try.
But I like to mock the guests on this show in the first few seconds, so I go for the accent first, and then I can, I'll move on to other things maybe later.
Okay. I'll be ready.
I am excited to see you and to always speak with you about things that really do matter. What do you have for us today?
Okay. Well, it's been a really intense week. So I want to just hit a few of those first. Then I want to tell you about some fantastic innovations. And then I want to tell you about this amazing anti-poaching group, these women in South Africa. So let's start with the week, because it's been intense out there. I mean, the news yesterday that the Abraham Lincoln, the statue that we have in the Lincoln Memorial in DC. So there's a wax replica that's outside a school in DC. Well, yesterday it was so hot, or actually it was a couple of days ago when they had the heat wave. The head melted off. So now you've got this iron, rod sticking out, but you've got no head. That's
Albert. Can you find it? It's a great picture of of Lincoln sitting there, and his head. There it is, and the head is melted off, and you can see the rest of Lincoln ain't doing that great either.
Yeah, no, he's getting pretty sort of floppy around the edges. Yeah, so it's really hot. And we know this, we know what happened in Mecca at the Hajj, the great, pilgrimage that happens every year, up to 1,300 people died because of the heat. Tourists are dying on Greek islands because of the heat. Half of Minnesota is underwater. It's intense out there. And I sent you that story last week, Mark. The one about the meteorologists who are being threatened when they are linking these extreme weather events to climate change. And it's crazy. There was the one guy who was employed by a CBS affiliate to go to Des Moines, and they said to him, his instruction was, we want you to be our chief meteorologist, and we want you to absolutely link what is happening in the weather to climate change. Well, there's this big, right-wing backlash happening against meteorologists. I sent it to you because, you were on Fox News telling people about the weather. I mean, this guy got a death threat. He eventually left and went back to Massachusetts. He's like, it's not worth it to be being treated like this for giving people the facts, the on-the-ground data, what is happening out there. So that's nuts.
No, I mean, this is really something that has been increasingly an issue that news people confront. You're talking about the weather, and we talk about it you can either talk about it in this one-dimensional 5-year-old to 8-year-old explanation of what the weather is going to be and what jacket you need to bring tomorrow, or you can put it into some kind of context. And increasingly, as you have more and more severe weather and more extreme weather and extreme weather events, it seems to crave context. And yet when you put it in any kind of context associated with climate chaos and the causes behind climate chaos, you get the pushback, the bullying, and even the death threats that accompany it.
Yeah. And it's just bonkers because, do you want to be, a low information voter? It's just, you need this information when you go to the polling booths or just in your everyday life. You need to know what's happening, and the weather is getting, so extreme. And, last year it was the hottest year on record. This year is already set, to beat that. And we're really dealing with this in real time. And so you need journalists telling you, the truth about what's happening. And
well, the last thing I would say on that, just to dovetail with that, is that if you just want to know what the weather is tomorrow and whether or not to wear a sweater, you've got your phone. There are plenty of other things that kind of reduce it to a cartoon and a number, which is the temperature. But people tune into the news, typically news on radio, on television, and media, and even now and sort of on this platform, for some kind of causality, put it in a context, explain the why behind the cartoon and the number. And you can't get to the why without addressing many of these things. So it's a sad state. And sadly, I don't know that we're breaking through. It feels as though there's a retrenchment, and so we'll see.
Well, we'll keep at it, you and I, Mark. How about that?
All right, very good.
Okay, so a couple of really cool things. There was an announcement so they have this meeting. It's called the Meeting of Champions, the Summer Davos, and it's the 15th World Economic Forum. And at it was announced that there are now these battery-powered planes. They have got 4-ton ones to fly at a distance of 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers. So short-range flights, but important because this company is saying that by the year 2027, 2028. There'll be 8-ton versions of it. And, if you prove it at one size, and then you're able to scale up, then we keep going. And it totally aligns with the vision that our guest of 2 weeks ago, Stanford environmental engineer Mark Jacobson has of this, 100% wind, water, solar powered Earth. And the big thing that, next is, we're getting our electricity generation up for, our homes and for buildings and all these things. But it has to also, cars, it has to also be aviation, maritime travel and industry. And so when you have a breakthrough like this and people are like, hey, we've got a plane and, this is how far it can go, because the majority of flights in the world, that are taken are, more short haul. So, this is a, I said, we're flying in the right direction when I, tweeted it this morning. I'm sorry, it's a terrible.
I get it. Yeah.
I couldn't help myself. I just got it.
I need to retweet that. I have yet to do it.
Yeah.
There is the announcement.
Yeah. And so it's, this is big. This is big. And then the other thing, so we have these. They call them kites, these tidal kites. And this is a Swedish company, and they're busy right now off the Faroe Islands. The Faroe Islands are in the North Atlantic. They're part of the Kingdom of Denmark. And, the thing that's really exciting about these tidal kites is so they're under the water. They call them sea dragons. I sent a link so we can put up a picture of them too. So this is the Faroe Islands. There are 16 of them. There are tons of currents that go, all around them. As you can see, the tidal currents, they're a constant. And this is the thing that's super exciting about them is that they could provide the base load of power because, wind and solar happen, when the sun is shining, when the wind is blowing. Well, currents, caused by the gravitational pull of the moon, and they're always going in and out. That never stops. So what's exciting about these guys, so as you can see, they look like a glider. They deploy them under the water, and they're tethered to the bottom of the ocean, and they sort of do these big loops in this figure 8 movement, catching all the energy of the currents, which don't stop. So this is really exciting. And the thing that the Swedish company has been doing is going, okay, we want to make these as easy to be able to install and to run as possible. So they've got as many components as they, can onshore, making the actual sea dragon that's, in the ocean as sort of maintenance, free as possible. They're very easy to deploy, to take in and out. They don't weigh too much. They don't need a huge, big current. And as we know, the ocean covers 71% of the Earth's surface. It's a, huge resource. So, if they can prove their efficacy here, then that's another technology that can be scaled up and is also part of the vision of, wind, water, solar, 100% wind, water, solar. So
that's fascinating. Also, I guess what you're saying in terms of installation and creating this, you're talking about essentially scalability, right? You're talking about getting enough of these things out there to actually be able to create sufficient power.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the Faroe Islands, so 53,000 people live there. They're not connected to anybody else's, electrical grid. And so they've been relying solely on oil. And now we're going 100% renewable. They're putting in wind turbines, and now they've got these kites. And the thing about it, the model that the world operates on now, or the developed world, is this very centralized electricity generation. We have these big, PG&E and all these big companies that completely control it. But what we need to do, and particularly with solar, if we're we can put solar panels, and we heard from Mark 2 weeks ago, it's not 11% of the world's electricity that could be generated, if we use just available rooftops that we already have. It could be up to 25%. But it's really this decentralized model that we have to be looking towards in the future, because this is going to give us more sustainable energy and we'll have more control over it. And we also know that these big power grids and traditional methods of moving electricity from one place to the other, they're very affected by high atmospheric temperatures. And so the more we can decentralize it, this is showing the Faroe Islands, and they've got this huge battery system. And we can, talk about, the pros and cons of batteries. And also, I'm sure some of our listeners are going, okay, these things, these, kites, these wind sea dragons are under the surface of the water. What are they doing to marine ecosystems? And that is definitely a valid issue. And I'm going to be looking into that more. So I'll report back on that. I'm sure that, they're really trying to stay out of the way of any migratory paths of, big mammals. But, there are lots of creatures in the ocean. So,
I wasn't going to mention this, but I will, just because you've mentioned the ocean and ocean creatures. The Faroe Islands have a shameful history, and with this tradition of herding dolphins and whales into a cove. It's just like the cove in Japan, and they slaughter in cold blood with machetes and knives, and they bring their kids to this crap, and it's horrible. And the water is red, blood red, as far as the eye can see. And I love that they are doing this with innovations that seem to take stock of sustainability that they need to live with. But I wish they would come out of the Stone Age with this ridiculous medieval literally bloodthirsty tradition they have of killing these magnificent creatures in the way they do. It's a horrible, horrible thing, and it takes place right there in the Faroe Islands.
Yeah. Well, Iceland too. I mean, they've got some, millionaire, whaler who's just been, asking the Icelandic parliament again, for the right to, it's fin whales. And, he wants to kill 128 of them, and, they kill them when they're pregnant. And it's just, it's
brutal. And now that we're talking about that, the argument in this country and the ruling in this country that permits the macaws, the Native Americans who used to have a tradition of whaling, it now permits them to hunt for whales because it's in the tradition of their people or whatever. And I'm a big supporter of Native Americans who've had their land jacked. This country is a bunch of colonialists. We have taken the land of these native peoples, no question about it. We've taken their tradition, we've appropriated their culture in many ways, and we've steamrolled a lot of what was that culture. All of that said, there are parts of traditions where we've been doing it for years since the very beginning, like slaughtering these whales, that have to go. I would excise that from your traditions. I mean, we had a tradition of keeping slaves in this country. That was another abhorrent one. I mean, you can go back to traditions of, so all I would say is, just in this kind of respect for sea life and respect for the planet, the macaw, the Native Americans who get away with this, they've just now gotten this approval from the U.S. government to go back to the whaling, and it's shameful.
Yeah, it is hard to take.
But this is to take nothing away from the developments with the ocean that hold out so much promise, and it's oftentimes orphaned for, as you suggest, sort of solar and wind. And this is an exciting new area of technology. So,
well, what they're estimating is it could create, 30 to 40% of their electricity. Well, that's a base load, right there. That's impressive. So it's moving in the right direction. And I've got to end on a positive story about animals and big mammals. So. This is especially for you today, Mark.
Thank you, Belinda.
Okay, so there's this elite group of anti-poaching force. They operate in the Oliphant Reserve, which is part of the Kruger National Park in South Africa. And their area, even though it's just a part of the park, is 200,000 square kilometers. So it's really big. They are unarmed and they're women. And they are having incredible success And it's a really fantastic story because it's hard for them to get gainful employment that really matters. They go around their reserve. They claim that they have stopped the poaching of rhinos. So I love that we're seeing a rhino right now, because that obviously is huge and ridiculous, because their horns, are not an aphrodisiac. They're just like our fingernails. They're agglutinated hair. But the fact that, people in certain countries believe that, this is going to really, add to, their sex lives, these rhino horns, it's not. So these are the women. They're armed only with pepper spray, handcuffs, and radios, but they're really well trained. They have military discipline. As soon as they go out, they're looking for the snares. They're looking for any kind of traps for the animals. They are they're in radio contact at all times with their base. There is armed backup if they come across poachers and they're endangered. But the beautiful part of it is, because they're unarmed, poachers don't want to shoot them. They're women who don't have guns, and so they're not being shot at. So they're, this elite force, they're having this incredible impact. And, I just see this as an absolute positive. And if they really have stopped the poaching of rhinos in that, preserve, that is amazing. And the other thing that they're doing is this. So it's really empowering for these women, and then for all the women in their lives who see what they're doing. And the other thing that they say that they're really educating people on is, a lot of people, in these African countries, with these animals, have this belief that the animals belong to the white people. Well, that's nonsense. And so what these women are able to do is say, these animals they belong to all of us, and we all have a stake, in their survival. So I thought that would be a good story.
Oh my God, that's a terrific story. And it's interesting because I used to be in touch with, and he's been on the show before, back on the radio show, or maybe my old podcast, a guy named Damien Mander. He was he was in Australian Special Forces and has had elite military training. And he was in Iraq and taken by the plight of what you're talking about, very few anti-poaching elements fighting a really strong poaching force, right? They have all kinds of assets, these poachers. They have helicopters, they have sophisticated weaponry and technology. So Mander did the same thing. And I thought in a way you were going to be talking about him, because it was largely a female-led force. There's something about women, when you get them together, they stay focused and committed. And he said that they were so trainable, and they were so committed to being trained. They weren't distracted by other things, that they were just a terrific regiment to pursue the cause. So this guy, Damien Mander, he was doing much the same thing. But now I Google him, and I can't find much. I don't know what he's doing. He might still be very active, but I love that these patrols, led by women, continue in these animal preserves in South Africa, which are so very vulnerable and have been almost picked clean as a result of poaching.
No, the poaching stories are really terrible. So to be able to tell a good news, good eco news version of what's happening, and that they're having success is always so good. But the fact that they're, they say that they're really, really trained. So they know, they've got this military discipline, whatever situation they come into. But can you imagine you're going out there, you've got handcuffs, a radio, and pepper spray, and you're going to be encountering people with, guns. I mean, it's
guns, and they're not afraid to use it. I mean, it surprised me when you said that they don't want to shoot them because they're women. I mean, that surprises me, because they're pretty wanton in their use of violence out there in pursuit of poaching ends. But that is a great story. I love it. I hope it gets more momentum. I mean, these
I tweeted it, so you can. So
that's the momentum it needs. It needs a little Twitter, Twitter oxygen. Yeah.
If only.
You can find Belinda across social media. She does have a lot of good news. There is good stuff going on in the environment. So find her at Belinda Waymouth, Waymouth. Love our visits with you on Wednesdays. Thanks, Belinda.
Oh, totally my pleasure. Bye, everybody.
That's It's the Planet, Stupid.
More.
It's the planet stupid.
No, it's the planet stupid.
Next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's true. It's very situation-y in many ways. It really is. And whoever is Albert, I think you've done a good job today. I want to say that you've
Albert, thank you.
Ridden in as commissioner effectively. And Kim, you stepped back.
Kim, how are you?
Had to be hard for you because you really were extending your wings, I thought, while I was away.
I'm happy to step back. That's cool.
I caught a little bit of the show while I was away, and I thought you did a very nice job, and you really leaned into your role. Almost, Albert, would you agree, a little too much, maybe just a little bit too comfy? What did you think, Albert?
I thought so, a little bit.
What? You're supposed to have my back. What is wrong with you? Don't side with him.
The different chairs, the different beds, the different food.
Just saying. I don't know. I'm just
Next
saying.
time, Albert gets to fill in. That's what's happening now.
Well, it's. I
see what your people are doing.
Kim is a rock, says Ricky. Well, Ricky's one of the OGs of the listener-viewer community. So if he says you're a rock, I guess you are a rock.
You're the Dwayne Johnson of the Bart Talk.
Yeah, you're that kind of rock. Right? Yeah. Ricky says he blames you.
I blame you.
Right. Stop messing with Kim, says Norm.
Thank you, Norm.
Norm, how dare you, Norm? I am for picking up Kim's cause and for ordering me to stop messing with her. I almost yellow card you, Norm. I want you to know that you're that close to a yellow card, my friend.
You're throwing down the yellow cards again, huh?
I defend Kim. Listen to this. Oh my God.
I mean,
I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Albert, you and I have to have a discussion later on. That's what's going to happen.
Oh no. I don't know, Albert. That could be tough.
Too comfortable.
Well,
that's not fake. That's real.
Tomorrow, the great David Katz will talk about the Supreme Court decisions, which are coming fast and furious. There is some subtlety to them. We'll also talk about the last moments before the debate, which is tomorrow night. Of course, it's not really a debate, but they call it a debate. It's a TV appearance, but it's certainly going to be a well-watched TV appearance. So, shadow producer Calvin Wong says Kim is mad. She is mad. She's.
I blame you.
Yeah,
I'm not mad. I couldn't have done it without Albert and without Tony. I love them. I'm so grateful. And now they turn against me.
This is not an Academy Award acceptance speech.
Turn against me.
My God. All right. After Party Live's going down now. Thanks again for all the love, everybody. See you tomorrow. Until then, bye-bye.